In a small village, there was a man named Samuel whose life had changed forever after a tragic accident. Years ago, while walking down the road, an imprudent driver had run him over. Although he survived miraculously, the accident left his legs paralyzed, and since then, he depended on a wheelchair that a kind man had given him. Samuel lived with his wife in a humble little house on the outskirts of the village. They had no children, but their companion was their greatest support. Without the possibility of working, Samuel had to leave the small apartment they rented in the city, and since then, his life was focused on asking for alms. Every morning, his wife took him to the end of an alley in the village, where he placed an old jar on the floor, waiting for the passers-by to leave some coins. In the afternoons, when the sun began to set, she returned from her temporary work, and together they returned home. The couple's routine, although difficult, remained firm. However, one day, Samuel's wife fell ill. Her health no longer allowed her to work or take Samuel to the village. He then had to learn to move alone, facing the discomfort and dangers of the road. With effort and determination, he managed to continue with his routine, although each day seemed longer and more exhausting. One afternoon, while Samuel was waiting for the last coins to complete the dinner, he noticed a strange man approaching. He was a beggar of peculiar appearance, with worn clothes and an old morale on his shoulder. The stranger sat near Samuel with a heavy sigh and spoke with a harsh but kind voice. Samuel, used to sharing his space with others in need, replied with a smile, "The street is for everyone. Where are you from?" "From far away," the beggar replied, looking at the horizon. "And where are you going?" Samuel, intrigued, asked. The man shrugged his shoulders. "I don't know. Maybe I'll spend the night here." Samuel, seeing his obvious exhaustion, took out a bottle of water that he had kept and offered it to him. "Here, drink a little. It shows that you are thirsty." The beggar drank the bottle and drank hard. Then he smiled. "How rich is this water? But if I am honest, I would like something to quench my hunger." Samuel looked at him with compassion. He took out of his bag 2 loaves of bread, the only ones he had for that night, and offered them to him. "Eat, friend. It's all I have." The beggar accepted the breads. He ate them calmly, and at the end he said with a voice full of gratitude, "Christ is with you, brother." Samuel, surprised, raised his eyebrows. "Why do you say that?" "Because even having little, you share with me. You say you ask for alms, but you have more kindness in your heart than many who have riches." Samuel smiled humbly. "I know what it is to be hungry, friend, and I know how it feels when someone helps you." The 2 men stayed in silence for a while, sharing the tranquility of the afternoon. Finally, Samuel broke the silence. "Do you have where to spend the night?" The beggar nodded. "Don't worry, I'll find a corner." Samuel thought for a moment before saying, "I don't want to change your plans, but what do you think of coming to my house tonight? It's not big, nor do I have much, but there's a roof and something to satiate the hunger. Also, it looks like it's going to rain." The beggar looked at him with an indescribable expression before answering, "I don't want to bother your wife." Samuel, somewhat surprised, asked, "How do you know I have a wife?" The man smiled and moved his head. "I suppose so. Don't listen to me." "Well, you guessed right," said Samuel, smiling too. "But don't worry. She is good and will be happy to receive you." The beggar nodded. "All right, I'll go with you." With the help of the beggar, Samuel picked up his things and got ready for the journey. The man pushed the wheelchair carefully, and Samuel carried the beggar's bag on his legs. When he noticed what was inside, he asked, "What do you have here?" "Candles," replied the beggar, without giving more details. "Why do you need so many candles?" "To light my nights." Samuel didn't ask more, although he was curious. On the way, he decided to share his story. He told him about the accident that had left him in a wheelchair, about the difficult years he had gone through, and how his wife had been his greatest support. The beggar listened in silence, but after a while he asked, "If you could ask for 2 wishes, what would you choose? To walk again or to have a lot of money?" Samuel thought for a moment before answering, "To walk again." "And why not the money?" Samuel sighed. "Because if I could walk, I could work and earn money on my own. The money is over, but the possibility of taking care of yourself lasts a lifetime. The beggar felt as if he agreed. After a while, to break the silence, Samuel said, "Tell me something, friend. A story, maybe." The beggar smiled. "Do you believe in God and miracles?" "Yes, a lot." "Then I will tell you a story about Jesus," said the beggar, and he began to narrate with a warm and paused voice. The beggar told him about a wedding in Cana, where Jesus and his mother Mary were invited. During the celebration, the wine was finished, which worried Mary a lot. She asked Jesus to help her, but at first he was reluctant. "My time has not come yet, Mom," said Jesus. But Mary, determined to help the grooms, instructed the servants to do everything that Jesus ordered them. Then Jesus asked them to fill 6 jars of water, and then to take a glass to the party manager. To everyone's surprise, the water had become wine, and not any wine, but the best they had tasted. This was the first miracle of Jesus, concluded the beggar, and he teaches us that we can always give our best to help others. Samuel was thoughtful. "It's a good story. Do you have another?" The beggar smiled. "Of course, but it will be better if we keep walking. The night is coming." The road to Samuel's house was full of stories. While the beggar pushed his wheelchair, Samuel listened carefully to the warm voice of his companion, who always seemed to know what to say at the right time. When they finished the first story, Samuel asked for another, and the beggar, after a short pause, continued. "Another day," the beggar began, "Jesus and his disciples traveled to a land called Samaria, where they stopped at an old well of water. While the disciples were going to buy food, Jesus was alone. Then a Samaritan woman arrived with a pitcher in her hands." Samuel, intrigued, interrupted. "Why is that important? What is so special about that woman?" At that time, the beggar explained, the Jews and the Samaritans did not get along well. It was strange that they spoke to each other, but Jesus made no difference. The woman was surprised when Jesus asked for water. "How can you ask me such a thing, being you a Jew and I a Samaritan?" Drania asked him. Jesus replied calmly, "If you knew who I am, you would ask me for the living water that quenches thirst forever." The confused woman asked where she could get that water. And Jesus explained to her that it was not ordinary water, but a symbol of eternal life. The beggar stopped for a moment to add, Jesus also revealed secrets of his life. For example, he had 5 husbands, and the man he lived with was not his husband. This left the woman speechless, because she realized that she was facing someone extraordinary. The woman ran to tell everyone in her city about Jesus, and many people went to meet him. They listened to his teaching for 2 days, and many of those people began to believe in him. Samuel smiled. "It is a great story. I like how Jesus sees beyond appearances." "That's right," said the beggar. "He teaches us that we are all worthy of love and compassion." When they arrived at Samuel's humble house, it was already night. Samuel's wife, when she saw the beggar, she was surprised, but she quickly regained her composure. With a warm smile, she sacrificed her only hen to prepare a stew that they shared among the 3. In the light of a candle, the beggar continued to tell stories, each more fascinating than the previous one. He told how Jesus forgave a rich man called Zacchaeus and helped him change his life, teaching him the value of repentance and generosity. Samuel and his wife listened carefully, enchanted by the words of the beggar. At the end of dinner, he told them, "Maybe tomorrow, when they wake up, I'm not here anymore. Don't worry, I must follow my path. Here I leave you these candles to illuminate your nights." The spouses thanked him and prepared a simple bed for Beggar to rest. The next morning, the first rays of the sun illuminated the small house. Samuel woke up early as always, but noticed something strange. He heard the singing of the birds, and for a moment he felt an energy that he had not experienced in years. He called his wife to help him sit in his wheelchair. But when he tried to move to the edge of the bed, something incredible happened. "Woman," Samuel shouted with a trembling voice, "my legs are moving." She looked at him disbelievingly, while he slowly got up from the bed. Tears rolled down his cheeks when he saw his husband standing for the first time in years. "Samuel, are you walking?" he exclaimed, covering his mouth with his hands. Samuel could not contain the emotion. He walked to the wheelchair, looked at it with astonishment, and then looked up to the bed where the beggar had slept. It was empty. "Where is it?" Samuel asked, looking for the stranger. They searched the whole house, but there was no trace of the beggar. Only the morale with candles remained in a corner. Samuel took it carefully, feeling a strange curiosity. When he opened it, he let out a terrifying scream. "They are human bones," he exclaimed, dropping the morale. His wife, seeing what it contained, retreated horrified. But then something changed in her expression. She touched her chest and realized that the discomfort that had plagued her for years had disappeared. Samuel whispered, "Don't you realize? This is not the work of any man. It was Jesus. He was here." Samuel fell on his knees with tears running down his face. "The Lord came to our house. He has blessed us." Since that day, Samuel's life and his wife's changed forever. Samuel regained mobility of his legs and was able to work again, while his wife recovered her health. Both told the whole town what had happened, and every time someone asked about the beggar, they answered with certainty. He was not an ordinary beggar. He was Jesus, the Son of God. The morale with candles, which at first had caused terror, became a symbol of faith for the couple. They placed it in a special corner of their house as a reminder of that miraculous meeting. Samuel, before dependent on the kindness of others, now dedicated his life to helping others, sharing his story and spreading the message of the beggar, to love, to forgive, and to have faith. The story of Samuel and the beggar reminds us that miracles can happen when we least expect it, and that the people we meet on our way can be much more than they seem. Jesus not only returned Samuel's legs, but also showed him his wife the transforming power of faith and love.